Good morning. I'm Sherry Prupus. I'm Director of Teaching and Learning with Technology for the VCCS, located at the system office supporting all 23 colleges. This is the last in our series for faculty. We're doing a similar session like this next week for staff. This section is going to be on PDFs. And we're going to be drawing on all the skills you've already been learning so that accessibility is about tagging and about being intentional on how we format our page and share information with those around us. I want to answer one question ahead of time, which hasn't been asked in this session yet, obviously. But the way to think about your course materials is if the content is critical to the student learning, to their being successful in completing the course, we need to make it accessible. And that's what you need to keep in mind. Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce our team. Nitesh is our magician behind the screen who runs our slides for us and does much, much more and answers your FAQs. And of course, Surbi, who's presenting and preparing the information for us. I'm going to mute and I turn this over. Oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. Please post all your questions in the questions and answers. If we may interrupt Surbi sometimes if it's critical. Otherwise, towards the end, we will answer on all the questions. And for those of you who like to read while you're listening, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, CC Show Captions. If you don't see the question and answer and show captions, click on More and the buttons that were hidden will show up there. Okay, now Surbi, now it's over to you.
Thanks, Sherry. Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our session, which also happens to be the last one for this series. So today we are going to talk about another important topic that often does not get attention. That is making PDF, or what we also call as portable document format, files accessible for everyone. So think about it, PDFs are everywhere in our work, teaching, like course materials, schedules, forms, instructions, and many more. So if a student or colleague cannot access these documents, we might be creating barriers without realizing it. And the great news is making PDFs accessible does not have to be complicated or time consuming at all. So there are simple practical steps we can take to make the PDFs we create usable by everyone. By the end of this session, the goal is to feel confident that your documents, PDFs, communication are clear, usable, and truly accessible to everyone. So let us dive in and see how we can make our digital documents, especially PDFs, accessible for everyone. Next slide, please. So today's session is all about understanding and applying PDF accessibility in a way that works for everyone. So the first focus is going to be on why accessibility matters, not just for students who rely on assistive technology, but for anyone interacting with digital documents. From there, the key features of an accessible PDF will be explored, including tags, reading order, alternative text, bookmarks, etc., which makes content navigable and understandable for all users. The session will also cover practical steps for creating accessible PDF from Word and PowerPoint, as well as understanding interactive forms and how accessibility principles apply to them so that everyone can complete the forms, use it effectively. In addition, some helpful tools will be introduced that can check for common accessibility issues and helps to fix those in a much easier way. Finally, a simple checklist will also be shared to review PDF before they are shared, ensuring that nothing important gets missed. We'll also look at a few helpful resources and tools that you can keep for your reference. And last but not the least, we'll have the floor open up for your questions. By the end of this session, you will have a clear understanding of how to produce PDF that are accessible, reliable, and usable by everyone. So before getting into the how, let's pause for a moment and explore why accessibility matters. Next slide, please. Let us now take a moment to see why accessibility is such an important topic. So PDFs and other documents are everywhere, like course materials, lecture slides, assignment instructions, grading rubrics, etc. So they're definitely convenient, but if they're not accessible, they can prevent students or anyone from completing tasks or finding the information that they need. For instance, imagine a student trying to review lecture notes or an assessment rubric using a screen reader. Now, if the PDF is not properly tagged, it can be difficult to navigate or even understand or prepare notes accordingly. Similarly, a long syllabus without headings, reading list, bookmarks can make it really hard for students to find the section that they really need to jump to. So, accessibility definitely matters for compliance. That is, colleges and universities must meet standards like Section 508, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1. But beyond legal requirements, accessible PDFs make faculty work much easier too. Documents are easier to read, simpler to navigate, and more reliable for everyone. Even a simple PDF like a departmental guide, course schedule, or resource sheet becomes much easier to use when headings are structured, tables are accessible, and images have descriptive text. So, accessible PDFs are not just a checkbox, they actually improve the experience for everyone. Next slide, please. Let us get into understanding tags and reading order. We've already discussed tags in our last session, but trust me, it's worth having a recap. You can think of tags like digital labels or instructions behind the scene of your document. So they tell assistive technologies like screen readers what each piece of content is. Imagine walking into a grocery store where none of the aisles are labeled. No signs saying fruits, dairy, or bakery, just shelves full of stuff. You would probably spend a long time wandering around trying to find something very simple like a loaf of bread. That is exactly what happens with an untagged PDF. It feels like um, um, a wall of text with no guidance or structure at all. In a digital document, each of these tags do a specific job. For example, heading tags mark sections like course overview or grading policy, helping screen readers jump quickly to the right part of the document. Paragraph tags identify regular block of text, that is your main content, explaining the description or the main paragraph. When list tags are used, they are great for steps or checklist like instructions for setting up classroom technology, without which a screen reader can just read everything as one long sentence. And table tags are equally essential where sharing things like a class schedule, grade chart, or research data. they allow assistive technology to announce the column and row headers so that a student hears what is exactly related. For example, the column headers would be associated to the cells instead of just reading the data alone, which would make no sense alone. Now, there are a few more tag types worth mentioning, which we've not discussed earlier, like form fields and footnotes. So forms are one of the most common places where accessibility breaks down. Think about a course feedback form or a professional development survey. If the form fields are not tagged with labels like name, email, or comments, a screen reader user might just hear edit field for everything, with no idea what to enter where. And that is definitely very frustrating, and it completely blocks participation, wherein tagging those fields correctly means every faculty, staff, or students can fill them out independently. Footnotes are another small details that matters more than people realize. So when citations or extra notes are added as plain text, they can actually interrupt the flow for a screen reader user. But when tagged properly, the software can pronounce that it is a footnote, and then it can return to the main text. Just like how a sighted reader glances down to the bottom of the page and comes right back up. Now, even with all these tags in place, the document might still be confusing if the content does not flow in the right sequence. That is where reading order comes into picture. So reading order controls the flow of content, that it tells assistive technology what to read first, second, and so on, like moving top to bottom and left to right, actually the same way we scan a page visually. So here's a quick example. Have you ever opened a busy website or a restaurant menu where your eyes did not know where to start? Now, imagine someone reading that menu aloud out to you, completely out of order. First, starting with maybe some item within the desserts, then a random cuisine, followed by drinks, and so on. It can be disorienting and really frustrating. And that is exactly what happens when a PDF has a broken reading order. A student using a screen reader might hear a heading and then it might jump to an image description or directly then to a page number. And that will lose the context completely. So, to pull it all together, tags provide structure, like labeling the aisles in the store, and reading orders ensure that the content flows logically, like walking through the store in the right sequence so that you find what you need without getting lost. So, when both of these are done right, the document becomes not just readable, but truly usable for everyone. And that is exactly what we are aiming for. Next slide, please. Let us now look at a few more key accessibility features you'll be adding to your PDFs. So we have covered these in our previous sessions as well. Let's have a relook at those. Starting with alt text. So whenever you add an image that contains meaningful information, something like supports your teaching or shares any key details, should have a short, clear description or alternative text. For example, if you include a diagram explaining a process or a map of field sites, a data chart in lecture slides, your alt text should describe what the image shows, something like flowchart illustrating steps of the research process. You do not need to describe colors or design here, which are purely decorative in nature, just the essential information that someone would need if they could not see the image. Now, if the image does not contain any useful content, like a decorative border or a background pattern, mark it as decorative. But make sure that you should be able to identify if the image has any important information. It could be something small as well. An alternative has to be provided for that. This tells, okay. So yeah, so next are links. So when you add hyperlinks, avoid vague phrases like click here or pasting a long web address. Instead, use descriptive links that explains where exactly it goes. For example, download lecture notes for week 3 instead of click here to download. That way, anyone can navigate confidently without guessing where the link goes. Also, be careful with links that are embedded within images. Now, it might look nice to use a graphic button that says submit assignment or join the workshop, but if that image does not have alt text, a screen reader might skip it entirely. So if an image is clickable, make sure the alt text matches the purpose of the link, like register now for faculty seminar or open syllabus for biology 101. And make sure it can be accessed using only a keyboard. That is, the user should be able to reach the link using tab key and should be able to activate it using enter or spacebar. Now let us move to bookmarks. Bookmarks are extremely useful in longer PDFs, like a faculty handbook, a course syllabus, or a research proposal. They act like a built-in table of contents, which helps the users jump directly to the sections that they need, whether they're using a keyboard, a screen reader, or navigating quickly on screen. The best part is bookmarks often generates automatically if your headings are structured correctly in Word, PowerPoint, or Canvas. That is why using proper headings from the start saves a lot of time later and actually improves the experience for everyone. Now, another important step is setting the document language. Before exporting to PDF, always set the correct language in Word or PowerPoint. It takes only a moment, but it actually helps screen readers pronounce text correctly, especially when it comes to terminologies, names, foreign language, course titles, or even campus terms. And finally, remember the main goal is to make the original document accessible first before saving it as a PDF. So whether you are creating a content in Word, PowerPoint, or Canvas, build accessibility as you go. So when the original document has correct headings, alternative text, descriptive links, bookmarks, and language rightly marked, those features carry forward when you export it to PDF in the right way. So instead of retrofitting later using different tools, you're actually baking accessibility in from the beginning, which saves a lot of time and makes your document accessible for everyone. Next slide, please. Let us now talk about how to structure your documents in Word or PowerPoint before exporting them to PDF. So again, we'll be going through headings, links, tables, etc. But this is where it all comes together. So today is less about what they are and more about how to use them right from the beginning. So when you save your file as a PDF, it is already accessible. So the main idea here is quite simple. Accessibility starts early. So if you use the built-in tools in Word, PowerPoint, or Canvas, like heading styles, list formatting, and table tools, that structure carries over when you save your file as a PDF. That means your PDF will already have most of the proper tags in place without needing a lot of fixes later. Let us start with headings. So a common habit that we see is to make text look like a heading by just changing the font size, making it bold, or even underlining it. Now, visually, that looks fine, but to most of us, it might look like a heading. But for a screen reader user, that is just a text in middle of a paragraph or somewhere there. So it does not register as a section break or a navigation point. So use the heading styles in Word, like heading 1, heading 2, etc. You can find them in the Home tab under the Styles group. You just need to highlight your text and choose the heading level you want to add it. For example, your heading 1 could be course syllabus or lecture notes. Your heading 2 might be week 1 overview or assignment guidelines. And your heading 3 could be submission instructions or evaluation criteria. So using these styles give your document a clear hierarchy and helps screen readers create a structure automatically. In PowerPoint, it works a little differently. That is, slide titles are usually treated as headings automatically, but it is still important to use built-in slide layouts instead of random text boxes. That way, each title becomes part of the reading order, making a presentation easier to follow for everyone. Now, talking about list, avoid making lists manually by typing dashes or numbers or hitting just a tab. It may again look fine visually, but it will not be tagged correctly when exported to PDF. So instead, use a built-in list style, that is bullets or numbering icons from the toolbar. This will add real list structure behind the scenes so that the screen reader will know how many items there are and where each one begins. For example, when sharing a checklist for setting up a course shell or grading steps, for an assignment, the software, as soon as the user enters the list, so the software might announce list of 5 items. So this helps user stay oriented. Now, if we look at tables, if you're showing data like grading rubrics or class schedules or any research result, use Word built-in table tool from the insert menu. Avoid using tabs or spacing to make fake tables. So when you insert a real table, Word adds proper structure and allows you to define column and row headers that helps screen readers explain the context clearly. So instead of hearing just 85, the user would hear assignment 2, grade 85. So the main takeaway here is if your source file is well structured, your PDF will definitely be structured too. So you'll already have the correct tags for headings, paragraphs, lists, and tables simply by using the built-in features of Word and PowerPoint. So it is all about working smarter, not just harder, by using what is already available in the software. So accessibility becomes part of your normal workflow, not something you have to fix later. Next slide, please. Let's now look at a couple of small but very important steps for accessibility. That is setting the document language and saving your file as a PDF in the right way. So starting with language settings, this is something most of us don't think about because it feels automatic. We assume Word or PowerPoint will know that we are writing in English. But for screen reader users, language settings tells the program how to pronounce text. So if the language is not set or if the wrong language is applied, the screen reader may mispronounce words or some names or even course titles that can really make the content confusing. So to set it in Word, you need to go to the Review tab, click Language, and choose Set Proofing Language. You just need to select the correct language. Usually it would be English US. And also check the box that says Set as Default. That's it. Once this is done, your Word document is good to go in terms of language. In PowerPoint, it works the same way. Highlight your text or select all and go to the review, choose language, and pick the correct one. This simple step helps screen reader pronounce words correctly, especially helpful for students or faculty names, academic terms, or different terminologies. Now, let's move on to one of the most important part here, that is saving your document as a PDF. So this part matters more than many people realize. Even if you have done everything correctly, like adding headings, alternative text, lists, you can still lose all of that with one wrong click. So when you're ready to create your final PDF, always use Save as PDF or Export to PDF options. These options keep the accessibility features that you have built into the file intact. Things like headings, alternative text, links, list, tables. It makes sure that these tags are structured rightly. Make sure that you do not use print to PDF, as that option flattens the file and removes all the tags that you have provided. So it may look correct visually to you, but again, to a screen reader user, it completely becomes unreadable. So even if you did everything right, all of it can get lost if you print to PDF. Now, to save it the right way in Word, you need to go to the File menu and click on Save As. Definitely, you need to choose a location. And under Save As type, you need to select PDF. This is simple. Now, before clicking the Save button, there is an Option button that you would see in the same window. Click on that and make sure the box Document Structure tag is checked. And also, uh, actually, that will ensure that all the tags are structured when it is converted. And also, you would see one more checkbox, that is create bookmarks using headings. Make sure you check that too. You would see it in the same pop-up. It will actually automatically add all the bookmarks for heading levels, which will help when you share lengthy documents like syllabi or research guides. Now you're all good to go. Click on OK button and save it. So your file is now exported with accessibility features intact, converted to PDF. So to run a quick recap here, set your document language first so that the screen reader pronounces the words right. Use Save as PDF option. Never print to PDF option, and always check that your structure tags and bookmarks are included when you save it. So these small steps will take less than a minute, but they will make sure your PDFs stays accessible so that everyone can read, navigate, and understand your content. Next slide, please. Now let's move on to one of the simplest but most effective step in accessibility, that is running the accessibility checker. So it's like doing a spell check for accessibility, which helps catch issues early on before they even become a problem in PDF. So now, as I mentioned earlier, accessibility really begins in the source file. So first, make sure your document that is in Word, PowerPoint, or Canvas is built accessibly. That is, use proper headings, good color contrast, alternative text for images, and a clear reading order. So the more accessible the source file is, the easier PDF will be. Next, before saving it to PDF, run the built-in accessibility checker in Word, PowerPoint, or Canvas. So you can find it under the Review tab in Word or PowerPoint, or you can search for Check Accessibility in the status bar. Once you run it, you will see suggestions if there are issues like missing alternative text, skipped heading levels, or low color contrast, etc. Fix those right away, and which will save a lot of time later. And it will make sure that your PDF will inherit those improvements. So think of it like if the Word or PowerPoint is accessible, the PDF will follow after that. So now once the accessibility checker is run, the fixes are made. When ready to export it to PDF, use Save as PDF, again, not print to PDF, which will keep all the structure, tags, and reading order intact. So accessibility does not start in Acrobat. It actually starts here, right in the original document. And the same applies to Canvas content as well. So when posting lectures, syllabi, or reading materials, run the Canvas accessibility checker too. So it catches things like missing description, unclear linked text, etc., before even your students get to see them. So to wrap up here, run the accessibility check early, fix what you can, and export correctly. So those few minutes of performing these steps can save hours later, and it will make sure your PDF is ready for everyone. Next slide, please. Now here comes forms. So forms are one of the most interactive parts of what we share, and they actually play a big role in accessibility. Think about course feedback form, research participation surveys, student check-ins, or internal departmental reports. If a form is not accessible, it can actually stop someone from participation altogether. So let us look at a few key things that makes forms truly accessible. So first, every form field needs a clear label and a helpful tooltip. So labels tell users what the field is for, and tooltips give a quick explanation or example of what is expected. For example, a name field might include a tooltip that says enter full name, first, middle, and last. Or if you have a date field, the label might say date, and the tooltip might say enter date in month, day, year format. So these simple additions help everyone, especially users with screen readers, understand exactly what information to enter. Next is keyboard accessibility, which is very important. Anyone should be able to move through a form using only a tab key in the right order. That means buttons, checkboxes, drop downs, text fields, etc., all need to follow the correct tab order and should be accessible using tab key. A quick way to test this is to tab through your form yourself, if you can reach every single field in the right order, and if you're able to activate everything using your keyboard, your form is accessible. Next is clear instructions, which also makes a very big difference actually. So it lets people know which fields are required, what format to use, and what kind of data is expected. For example, you might say, use your institutional email or enter a 10-digit phone number. Now, when it comes to tools, there's a good news. We have platforms like Microsoft Forms, Google Forms, which have already strong accessibility built-in features. So, which supports label fields, logical tab navigation, and screen reader compatibility. For departments, those who use Salesforce, even they can be designed to meet accessibility standards for both internal and external users. So before sharing any form, run a quick accessibility test with tools like Wave or AxeDev tool, which can check your form's labels, tab orders, and screen reader experience. These quick checks can help confirm that everything works as expected for every user, whether they're using a mouse, a keyboard, or assistive technology. So to sum it up, accessible forms have clear labels and tooltips. It can be navigated by keyboard alone. It includes helpful instructions and are built on accessible platforms like Microsoft Form, Google Form, or Salesforce. Taking those extra minutes to test and refine makes sure that everyone can fill out and submit forms with ease. Next slide, please. So once your form fields are in place, the next step is to make sure users can actually navigate through each field using just the keyboard. So now this is where tab orders comes into picture. So the tab key should move through fields in a logical sequence, usually left to right, top to bottom, just like you would read it visually. The same principle also applies to backward navigation. When using Shift plus Tab key, users should be able to move backward through fields in reverse order without getting lost. For example, if you take a look at the image on the slide, you can see numbered labels showing the tab orders across the form fields. Now, if that order is not set correctly, it can become a frustrating experience for users who are especially relying on screen reader or keyboard. Now, imagine hitting tab or shift tab and jumping from the social security number to the phone field and suddenly to the name field. So it can be very, very confusing, especially for lengthier forms. So it is worth taking a minute to check that everything flows in the right order. Next, let us talk about buttons. So any interactive buttons like submit, reset, or next should have first a clear label that tells the users exactly what it does. So instead of just a vague label like submit, say something like submit application or send request. This way, users, especially using screen readers, will get the full context. So if your button triggers any scripts or actions like sending a form or opening a new page, make sure those actions can be triggered with a keyboard, not just a mouse click. And if clicking a button or activating a button opens a pop-up or a dialog, the focus should automatically move to that new dialog instead of staying in the button. For example, if a submit button opens a confirmation pop-up asking whether to proceed, the focus should land on the pop-up so that the user can interact without having to tab again. Finally, always test your form as we discussed earlier using only the keyboard, that is forward and backward, to confirm that all fields, buttons, dialogues, etc. are accessible and they follow a logical order. So accessible forms can give every user a smooth and predictable experience from start to end, making it easy for everyone to complete it. Next slide, please. So now that you have done all the work, fixed headings, lists, tables, added alt text, saved as PDF, everything looks great. Then comes the final step, that is testing your PDF. So now here I'm not talking about forms, but only the PDFs which are read-only. So to make sure it actually works, start by using Adobe's Read Aloud feature. So here the PDF reads aloud. You'll catch things that you might have never noticed visually. Next, check the reading order using any screen reader if possible. Move through the content and make sure it flows like someone would naturally read it visually. Check the tags, that is, confirm headings, lists, tables, and all other elements are tagged properly, especially if you fix things manually. You can have a cross-check using PAC 2024, which is a free PDF accessibility checker. It digs into compliance and WCAG standards, making sure you did not miss anything. You can also try PAVE, that is PDF Accessibility Validation Engine, which is another free tool to check PDF accessibility along with fixing issues. One quick caution I would like to mention here is to always check with your IT before using any third-party tool, especially with sensitive or internal PDFs. So testing the PDF might feel the last step, which is actually true, but it is the most important part as it ensures your PDFs are not just readable visually, but truly accessible for everyone who wants to read it. Next slide, please. Now that we have talked about testing PDF, let's take a closer look at a tool that can make your life much, much easier. We talked about PAVE, that is PDF Accessibility Validation Engine. It was developed by the Zurich University of Applied Sciences, and it is based on PDF/US standards. That means it follows universal accessibility rules, designed to make PDF accessible for everyone. One of the coolest thing about PAVE is that you can see right away what's good and what needs attention. So green means you're good, red means something needs to be fixed. It's free for personal use, so you can test your PDF and fix it. But if you want to process a lot of documents in bulk or use it in, you might need a paid license, which can be confirmed once you contact them. Also, make sure not everything is automatic. That is, PAVE will definitely guide you showing where fixes are needed, but some manual corrections will still be up to you. So how does PAVE actually work? It's actually pretty simple. You just need to upload your PDF right on the PAVE website. It will scan and automatically correct whatever fixes it can do, and then it will guide you through the rest. step by step so that you can make those manual fixes itself in the website alone. Once you're done, you download your newly accessible PDF, and your file also stays on the Pave server for up to 3 weeks, unless you delete it sooner. Also, again, I would like to give a quick disclaimer. Pave is a third-party tool, so before uploading any sensitive or internal documents, please check with your IT or data security team to make sure that you're following privacy and data rules. Now, using Pave is something like having a friendly accessibility assistant, which will help you spot issues, fix the issues, and for the rest, it will guide you through fixes and make sure your PDF is accessible for everyone. So it's a great way to double check after you have already done the work, and adds that extra layer of confidence that your documents are truly ready to share. Also, it is super helpful for the pre-existing PDFs for which you do not have access to the source file. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about some resources and support that can help you with accessibility. So these are great whether you are new to PDF accessibility or want to dive deeper and sharpen your skills. So first up, Microsoft Forms for interactive forms. They have accessibility guidance that walks you through in creating accessible forms that is helpful for everyone. We also have Salesforce Forms, which also offers accessibility resources, especially if you are building forms for internal or client use. For testing PDFs, PAC 2024 is a free tool that goes beyond just the basic checker and helps ensure compliance. We also have PAVE, the PDF accessibility validation engine, which definitely we discussed some time back, which is great for spotting issues and guiding manual fixes. So if you want to understand the official guidelines, WCAG 2.1 quick reference breaks down accessibility rules into simple, easy to scan checklist. WebAIM also provides a PDF accessibility guide with practical tips and step-by-step advice for making documents accessible, especially from Word or any other format. Now, I would like to mention it again, like before using any third-party tool, make sure that you check with your IT. Keeping these resources handy will definitely support you as you create accessible content across your campus or within your department. So they are your toolkit for accessibility success, making sure every PDF and form you create is usable for everyone. Next slide, please. So before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of the key points from today's session. The best way to create accessible PDF is to start early, that is right in your original document, Word, PowerPoint, or Canvas. Use built-in styles for headings and text because it gives it structure and makes navigation much easier. Add alternative text for images and descriptive links so that the users know what they are accessing. Set up the document language before exporting to PDF, as it helps screen readers read your content in the right language. When your file is ready, use Save as PDF instead of Print to PDF, which will keep all the accessibility features intact. Once your PDF is ready, run an accessibility checker and fix any issues which will help you to fix any new issues which you might have missed manually. Test your PDF with tools like Pave, PAC 2024, or even a screen reader, if possible, to make sure everything works as intended. create accessible forms using Microsoft Form, Google Form, or Salesforce. Add labels, tooltip, and keyboard navigation. Finally, run through your accessibility checklist before sharing your PDF to make sure nothing is overlooked. So if there is one thing to take away today, is that fixing a PDF is not just about ticking boxes. It is about making sure no one is left out of learning. With that, we have reached the end of our session. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and attention. I hope this training, the entire series, gave you some confidence and tools to make your documents, materials, PDFs more accessible and usable for everyone. Now, the floor is all yours for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I need to take a breath. This was a lot. Actually, Survey needs to take a breath. This was a lot. We will be sharing the recording and the slides and the links. We have lots of questions, which I'm going to be sharing with Survey and Nitesh, and they will provide us with answers, and we will share that out. We'll get you the recording very quickly with slides. The FAQs will get you a little bit afterwards. Okay, so here we have lots of questions. The first is handwritten work. And so I had suggested that they can upload their handwritten work to AI, but they have to be intentional in their prompts. They should say, the handwritten thing, they should say, this is an answer to the question, and put the question in there that they're answering. And then as a second step, when they get the answer out of AI, to ask AI for directions on how to upload that result into a Canvas page. The next one, well, oh, this was really interesting. Are we better off rebuilding a PDF form rather than trying to remediate it?
You're talking about PDF form?
Yeah, if somebody created a PDF form, 6 months ago and it's not accessible, are they better
Right.
off rebuilding it, or is it easy enough to go in and fix it?
So there are two options here. If you have Acrobat Pro, you can go ahead and fix it. But if you do not, better rebuild it using Microsoft or Google or Salesforce forms, because they are quite accessible and
Okay.
easy to create. Yeah.
Thank you. You had made a comment, it was a little bit in passing, but we missed the detail. You had say how to make sure the screen reader pronounces a word correctly. And a couple of us didn't capture how you did that. How did you make sure the screen reader pronounces a word correctly?
Okay, so this was regarding setting up the language, right? I would also provide this in it will be there in the notes as well, and I will add it in the Q&A Excel sheet that you share. So there was a step how you set up the language. So what it talks about is actually we are writing in English, and the Word or PowerPoint, they assume that it is English, but what happens is in the backend, if this language is not set as English US or it is set something else for any reason, when screen reader reads the document, it might mispronounce some words. So that it's all about setting up the right language in your Word and PowerPoint document.
Okay, thank you. Okay, they are getting a copy of the slides. Okay, so this came up a couple of times. If there's a source document, let's say the source is Word, and they've saved it as a PDF. Now they have to update it. It's the next semester, or something has changed. When they go back to the source document, they will have lost some of the stuff when they saved as a PDF. So I had said that they should take an extra step. When they have the source document, as you went through with us, the source document should be accessible. They should save the source document as a Word document and then save it as a PDF so that the original
Correct.
source document has the accessibility in it.
Right. I think that works, that will work the best, because you always need a backup. If you, like you mentioned, if you need to make any changes or update it, the only thing now you need to do is open the source document and make the changes and save it again. That's it.
Okay, and I think we're gonna give this to you and Nitesh to answer us in the FAQs. And
Mhm.
that's going through the steps for us of actually how to make sure the tab key works. We had a few things with that we didn't quite know how to use.
Mhm.
Okay, hang on a minute. Ah, so we have a lot of faculty who have very large PDFs, and those
Okay.
seem to be too large to convert for free, either in PAVE or PDF. Do we have any
Okay.
suggestions for them? They're too large, or is this something we have to take offline and figure out what the size limitation is for the free conversions?
So with PAVE, I remember it, the maximum you can upload, the maximum size is 5 MB. At 5 MB if your document is larger than that. So yeah, we need to check offline what could be the other options.
Okay, and one of the things that we're gonna do is we're buying a software called the Equidocs. That will be a paid version. There will be 2 licenses for each college. And then we'll have to share who they go to at the college to do this as well. And it specifically, this was a note for Brightpoint faculty from Meredith Privet. Thank you very much. Their visual arts program actually does have Adobe Pro. So that's one of the things you have to find out. Contact your instructional designer or your CIO at your college and find out if they have a few copies of Adobe Pro and can help you with the things that are very large and other issues that you might find that you need specifically in that you can't use the free version for. Somebody asked about the free versions and the paid versions. That's a college decision. They're pretty expensive to scale. So at this time, at the system level, we're not paying for Copilot and Gemini, though Copilot and Gemini exist in a protected environment. So you'll have to check with your college and your department if they're buying any paid versions. The OER texts that many of our colleges use, that we encourage to use, we don't have any access to source documents. If there's any way to get back to the people at the library that you got the OER from, and maybe they're beginning to have accessible versions. I say the same thing about third-party publisher materials, to please get the latest version of the software. So Kerrigan, are there going to be OERs that are not accessible and they're really large and we're going to have to either use Equidocs or find out if you have Adobe Pro? Yes, but see if you can find out who was the original creator and did they create a new version 1. Oh, Tamra is asking an interesting question. Technical terms, scientific health terms, how do we get a screen reader to pronounce that technical term correctly? One of the things that I have done sometimes, if I'm pretty sure it's not going to pronounce it correctly, is I'll say the word and then spell it. So I don't have a good example. But if there is a word that we want to make sure it's pronounced correctly, spell it out as well. Surbi, do you have other suggestions for that?
So one more option can be done, which people do quite a lot in their names. So when that term is there in brackets, you can also write how it is pronounced. People do this with their names. I'm not able to come up with an example. For example, Surbi. So I might say SUR-BHI. So it is pronounced this way. So the same thing you can do for the words. You can write in brackets how it is pronounced. You can break it into smaller letters and provide that alternative.
Okay, thank you. So this is actually, you're getting compliments, Surbi. This is the last of our faculty sessions. There's one more next week, but it's the same one for staff. And we have a new website, and it has all the recordings. Well, I have to add a couple more recordings, but if you go to this website, vccs.edu/accessibility/webinars, you will be able to get to the recordings. We're also working with Paige Durham, who's doing some discipline-specific sessions for us, and we'll talk about that more. We have just passed the noon deadline. I have all your questions. I'll be sharing them with Nitesh and Surbi, and we will get them out on the same page that says accessibility webinars. We will get out the FAQs. We'll get the answers for you. Please join me in thanking Surbi and our magician behind the slide deck. Not only that, he does the FAQs and a lot of other background work for us. And I want to thank all of you for giving us the time, for understanding the importance of making all our materials accessible. It helps everyone, not only a person with a documented disability, but it truly helps everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day ahead.